What's up, everybody? I'm Emily Litzel. I am your astrologer. Welcome to Love Money Venus. We are going through the forecast for the week of November 15th through the 21st. Really big week ahead of us, so let's jump right in. Starting with Monday, we have a Mars-Uranus opposition. Really dangerous, very volatile aspect. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. This is a situation where you want to be aware of your surroundings and in control of your behavior, because accidents, explosions, arguments, all of those things can be predictably expected with a transit like this. So you don't want to be the cause, okay? You don't want to be the cause of these outbursts. You don't want to be the victim of them either, but it's also really important that you're managing your own temper, because the consequences of losing it are probably going to really far exceed what you're expecting them to be at the moment, okay? So making that task a little more difficult is the Sun-Jupiter square that we're also dealing with for the majority of the week. The sun represents our vitality, our ego. That's a really big part of why this aspect is complicated, okay? Our sense of self, our identity, our outlook, all of that is held within the sun, and Jupiter is our cosmic enlarger, okay? He is literally made of gas, a big ball of gas. So every time I see this kind of square, I think about being gassed up, just really overly confident with what you can offer a situation, over promising, getting yourself, letting your mouth get you into situations that you really have a hard time getting out of. So be aware that sort of arrogance and overconfidence is coming for you to goad you into the very situations that you're supposed to be at least cautiously avoiding. So if you're kind of seeing a theme develop here, there is one. I guess we can go from there. There is sort of a sense of this fated goading, everybody being goaded into an action that you really don't want to take. Scorpio and Taurus are super fixed. They don't like to change unless they're forced to. And sometimes the universe has to get really volatile for the stuff that we absolutely have to be separated from, but we don't want to give up at any cost. So there is more of that kind of back and forth. And how severe that is for you depends on how deeply you're clinging to whatever this eclipse is going to ask you to give up. Okay, so keep that in mind as the story keeps developing. Your supportive aspects this week to hold on to are two sextiles, two really cute little sextiles that are, and one even involves Pluto, and I still think it's cute. These are going to be what you turn to. These are your helping hands. If you do get overwhelmed by the depth and the intensity of this week and how much is being, because this is a really exhausting eclipse, be prepared to take naps. Because I'm in this ridiculous timeline right now, this is my 90th take of this video, and I literally had to lay down for a second and recover myself before I could come out to this, but that's a story for another time. The Sun-Pluto sextile that we have coming up is going to be really good for you if you do feel a sense of powerlessness, not over outside circumstances because we can't control those, but if you have something in your own behavior, if you have something in your immediate environment that you can change or control, that you've been letting rob you of your inner power, this is something that you can call to be able to take back, to step out of that helplessness. Pluto is amazing for transformation, and if you are willing, if you're in the depths and in the darks and you're willing to be pulled out of it, Pluto actually is the planet that can help you do that. And with the light of the sun and the brightness and the fire to burn anything away, you get a chance to take a deep peek into psychology and subconscious triggers, right? The stuff that normally is closed to you. You'll be able to see it with the sun in Scorpio, because that's one of the gifts of this season, and Pluto will help you find a mechanism to be able to take that power back for yourself. So when you do start feeling too helpless to the situations and the cosmic tides, the very fated eclipse that's coming up, lean into that Sun-Pluto sextile, because it really does have it has more horsepower than it looks like, in the face of everything else. The other one that we get to deal with all week that's really at least going to make it a little bit fun to be dealing with this is a Venus-Mars sextile. All week long, they're going to be within a degree of each other, to varying strengths. So that is really a very, it's a fun, active, excitable energy. and it is taking pleasure in doing strenuous things. Tuesday. Okay, so the sun is pulling past its square with Jupiter. That overconfidence, that arrogance is starting to loosen up a little bit. And the sun is moving into exact sextile with Pluto. So that re-empowering, we're going to have like that feeling that like, okay, wait. This isn't that out of control. I can get this. I can do it. I can like take the reins back. So this is a little bit of a breather. But the Mars-Uranus opposition is coming even closer. That goes exact on Wednesday, tomorrow. But you're going to be feeling that escalating. That's going to be picking up pressure in whatever area that is. You might feel a lot of like literally like electric tension kind of around you in your immediate environments. Have something like, have some amethyst, have some rose quartz, light some candles, meditate, like really bolster your psychic immunity for this week. I mean it. It's going to be so easy to pick up struggles and battles that are not yours. This is something that you want to have, whatever your strongest psychic shields are, have those, so at the very least you're only dealing with your own problems. Like, that is a very good way to approach this week, and you will be happy that you did it. Past that, we have the moon in Aries. It's been there for about 2 days now. That is another signal to losing your temper. This is going to set the tone for how the 2 years of the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio are going to treat you. You're getting some kind of, it's not a peak, you're getting stripped of something that you can't take with you into that next eclipse period. That's the best way that I can explain it. If you come clean, if you have done something with the Sun-Pluto sextile, there's a very good chance that if you embrace it like the sun, if you just like expose it to sunlight, disinfect it, take whatever consequences are coming with an open heart, you know, and just be totally transparent, Pluto will help clear like whatever damage is there, as long as you're willing to like take that full responsibility and know what you're apologizing for. Okay, Wednesday is a big day for the Mars-Uranus opposition. This is in a day that it goes exact. And with that, whatever's been culminating, it's going to start releasing, at least from this specific aspect, as we move on with the week. But then you're going to be coming into the eclipse. Big news is that the moon is conjunct Uranus, which is opposing Mars, and our entire emotional state is in this really aggressive flux, right? Aggression from Mars, flux from Uranus, emotions from Moon. It just looks like it's going to be a lot of instability coming up and to be sorted out through. The things to be conscientious of, okay, are what the reactions to these triggers are going to cost you. By Thursday night, early Friday morning, kind of like that, like I think around 3 in the morning, we are going to have our partial lunar eclipse. It's at 26 degrees Taurus, which happens to be where the fixed star ALGOL also lives. So the conjunction between those two is a really big part of this, but why it's a partial eclipse is because the full moon is happening in Taurus, but the north node that makes it an eclipse is still in Gemini. The nodes are in Gemini and Sagittarius, but they're so close to each other by degree that it's going to cause an eclipse regardless. You're going to see the moon disappear, okay? So that is why it's partial. It's in between two signs as far as what's happening. ALGOL is what makes this so violent and extra malefic. And I mean violent, I really do. I'm not fear-mongering because, to be honest with you, this week you don't even have time to get shook about it. Like, you really just have to get on with it and you have to get through it. The ancients wouldn't let armies go into battle unless they were under the light of this star because they recognized that it was that effective in creating like successful murder war campaigns. This is what this star holds. On the other side of that, you also have a tremendous amount of growth available to you, because with all of those sort of death and destruction, just like Pluto, just like some of those harder planets, ALGOL takes away, but you are left with a lightness, and you can be minus one thing that you shouldn't have been carrying with you anyways. So this is where the whole murder theme and being separated like Medusa's head, which ALGOL like represents as well. Okay, being forcibly separated from something that you are really attached to, with something that is deeply ingrained in your lifestyle, in your character maybe. It could be a source of financial support that's been doing really good for you that you just like are no longer a fit for, or isn't. A lot of people are leaving jobs right now for a multitude of reasons and having to face like what comes next, but they just know they cannot go any further with that job, even if it's partially taking care of them. This is that kind of situation. It's having to let go of a relationship that almost gives you everything that you need. It's being asked to be stripped of something that looks like it's working sometimes, but fails spectacularly other times. Because that is how you can treat this eclipse. You can voluntarily offer up whatever is going to be taken from you regardless, okay? You can lend yourself to this process. You can decide on your own you don't want it anyways. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be painful when you have to go through the process of being without this thing that you cannot carry with you into 2022 and beyond. That is still going to hurt. That is still going to take the work that it takes, you know, to, if it's an addiction, if it's in a crutch, you know, whatever it is, there's going to be a space and kind of like an empty wound left after this eclipse. And you have to go through the steps of healing that regardless. But if it was voluntary, like if you went for the surgery to have this malignant part removed, that's different than somebody like slicing you up without your permission, right? We can all agree on that. That is like, be your own physician here. This is that magnitude. Chuck it into the eclipse and never see it again, right? It comes with like kind of like a blood sacrifice of being willing to look at deep psychological stuff that's normally too scary to look at in almost every case, because we're talking about issues of attachment and being attached to things that are weighing us down, that are costing us more energy than they bring in. That are, maybe they're absolutely amazing, fine and fun, but they're keeping you from what you're actually being called to do, and you can't control yourself when you're around whatever that influence or substance is. There's a spectrum of ways that this can manifest for you, and it's going to be specific to the house that Taurus and Scorpio hold. So whatever that axis is where you're going to be looking for this upheaval and this major psychic growth and change. I feel like almost a sense of stoicism about like these kinds of transits when they come up, because there's nothing you can do. It's going to happen anyways. And because you know that it's fated stuff and it's going on, there's no possible way that you can end up in the wrong place, because you're being forced into the exact place the planets want you. But there is definitely a way to make it easier on yourself and to come out with more on the other side. Let's look at where we are after this all goes down. Friday's cute. The moon moves into Gemini, hits the north node, but we're out of the lunation aspect. There isn't really a ton going on. Mars is starting to move past Uranus, so we don't have any more planets that are going to spark that point for quite a while now in transit. There's a trine happening between the two of them. Venus, Uranus, trine. Okay. This one is cute for a few reasons, because one, we haven't talked about the markets, but we should talk about the markets because it is very unlikely they're going to do much but bleed underneath the harshness of the beginning of the week. There could be some massive like spikes and explosions up. Everybody isn't going to be a loser at the same time, but there's going to be a lot of blood. There's going to be a lot of red. But then we come into Friday, Venus Day, and a lot of those really harsh aspects have pulled apart. You know, they're not there anymore. And Venus is trining Uranus and creating an aspect that sometimes comes with really big money explosions. So especially if this is hitting in somebody's 8th or 2nd house, 11th house, forget it. Like, you really might be coming into a big windfall of cash or some really pleasant surprise. And I will be very interested to see what all of the markets are doing, because that's always a fun one to play out in the world's financial stage. So after that, we're coming into Saturday. Mercury square Jupiter. Okay, so now we have the moon in talkative, curious, mile-a-minute Gemini, which I am, which is why these can become a little bit long-winded. And we have Jupiter, the planet of exaggeration and arrogance, squaring Mercury, Gemini's ruler, and the planet of communication. So again, this looks like the potential for our mouth to get us into trouble, which doesn't necessarily mean an aggressive outburst, and this can, like, it could just literally be promising something that you shouldn't be. At the same time, we have Mercury sextiling Pluto. We're getting this repetitive kind of hit of transformations, right? So this started with the sun, and then we went to Mercury. So first it was transforming like our ego and our sense of self. Now the opportunity to transform the thoughts that go on inside of that, the communications, the thoughts that become the words that we speak out to people. That's next. Mars is up for that one afterward. That's going to be an offer to transform our action. You have a lot of opportunities for change here. Important theme of this is not work that can be sidestepped. We have a very dark, complicated winter ahead of us. You need to be anti-fragile. You need to be self-sufficient. You need to be clearing out the baggage that is keeping you from your true purpose, whatever that is. Which is why, if you can't get there on your own, this is scheduled to be so chaotic and so explosive, because it's there to shake you out of whatever you can't see. Sometimes something has to make you angry enough to like really see it through. Sometimes anger is the best motivator of them all. And that is a wonderful way to use all of this Mars energy. If you do get angry, go for the revenge body lane. Go for whatever that spurs you to do to change so that you don't have to feel that way. You are not going to do well if your only avenue is to act that temper out on other people or on the sources of aggravation. Even if they are aggravating you, this isn't about reacting. This isn't about you having the privilege of like going crazy and getting in somebody's face either, because you're really going to want to. This is only going to be bested by whoever is willing to stay Taurus grounded, Scorpio reserved. These are two signs that are really able to stay unmoved by the whirlwinds or the forces around them. So that is what you are being asked to embody. And if you can do that, you're going to come out of it with, like, I don't want to sound corny, like this like new sense of self, but a new sense of self is a really big deal. If you've been dealing with insecurity issues, if you've been dealing with an abusive relationship, if you've been dealing with addiction, when things like that are removed from you, it's like winning the lottery. Like when you see yourself in a different set of circumstances than you ever imagined you could be in. Do not look past the transformations that are being offered to you, the chance to secure your future and your psychic well-being for what's coming up in the years ahead, because there's going to be a lot to look forward to, but it is only going to belong to the strong. Full stop. You have to be strong enough to participate in the future ahead of us. You have to be sovereign to yourself. You have to be able to live by your own rules and back it up. Participate. Self-sufficiency is a massive message of the Taurus Scorpio axis. Whether it is farming, being responsible for your own food, whether it is resource guarding, making sure that you're not spending more than you're bringing in, making sure that you're saving for the things that matter, not just the things that you want, making sure that you're supporting the things that you're supposed to be supporting. That's all Taurus and Scorpio. Making sure that your relationships, like that the people that you love, that the people that love you back know that. Providing all of that and standing true to the words and the promises that you've made is very much Taurus Scorpio energy. If you think of yourself as somebody who has not a lot of follow through, or somebody whose mind is too easily changed, short attention span, all this kind of negative speak about all the reasons that you can't see it through to the end, this era of Taurus Scorpio eclipses is coming back for you. Okay, if you align yourself with this energy right now, if you make that sacrifice, you see the transformation that's coming for you, those aren't things that you're gonna have to say to yourself anymore. By the end of these 2 years, you're gonna know that once you say something, you have the mettle and you have the character to back it up. And that is probably one of the most secure, safe, wonderful places to be in this era of upheaval, when you are secure within yourself and you know that your word is good for anything that you put it to. Just in case, something horrible happens and you don't know why, I will be streaming to take a look at your chart and figure out exactly what happened. But I don't think any of you are going to be caught like that, because if you are spiritually grounded enough to find this channel, then you can totally master this eclipse. And we're going to do it together and check in at the end of the week to see where that got us. So I will see you on Friday, and then next Monday we will do this again. Thank you so much for tuning in.